One winter night, David returned to his apartment exhausted after a long day at the office. He lived alone in an old brick building, the kind of place where the walls seemed to hold echoes of generations past. As soon as he entered, he noticed a strange smell, something like mold or decay, a stale, faintly sweet scent that unsettled him. But he was too tired to pay much attention. "I'll figure it out tomorrow," he thought, collapsing into bed and closing his eyes. However, that night his sleep was restless. He kept waking up. And each time he did, he heard something strange, a faint murmur, as if someone were speaking behind the walls. He chalked it up to noisy neighbors, the building's structure, or even his tired mind. But each time he awoke, the murmur was there, almost as if it were waiting for him. The next night, the smell was still there, but now it was stronger, clinging to every corner of the apartment. Determined to figure out the cause, David searched the kitchen, the fridge, even the trash, but found nothing. He even opened the windows, hoping that fresh air would dissipate the smell. But it seemed like the odor wasn't coming from anywhere specific. It was trapped in the walls. That night, as he lay down, he heard the murmur again. This time, it was clearer and repetitive, as if someone were saying the same words over and over, though he couldn't quite understand them. He sat up in bed, straining his ears to catch more of the sound. Slowly he realized that the murmur seemed to be coming from the wall next to his bed. Intrigued and a little unsettled, David moved closer to the wall and pressed his ear to it. As soon as he did, the murmuring stopped, as if whatever was behind the wall had realized he was listening. A shiver ran down his spine, and he backed away, getting back into bed and convincing himself it was just his exhaustion playing tricks. But over the following nights, the phenomenon grew more persistent. Now, the murmur would start as soon as he turned off the lights, as if the darkness itself activated it. Desperate, David started searching online for any rational explanations for strange smells and sounds in his apartment. He found forums where people mentioned similar experiences, but the stories weren't reassuring. Many claimed that strange sounds in walls were signs of trapped energy or lingering presences. Against his will, he began to wonder if maybe there was something dark and hidden in his apartment. One night, unable to bear the tension any longer, he decided to confront the issue. Armed with a flashlight and a hammer, he examined the wall where he'd heard the murmurs. He tapped lightly, trying to find any hollow or unusual spots that might explain the sounds. That's when he noticed that on one part of the living room wall, the sound was hollow, as if there were an empty space inside. Taking a deep breath and with rising fear, he started making a small hole in the wall, expecting to find a crack or duct that might be causing the smell. But as the hammer broke through the plaster and removed the first bits of wall, he saw something inside, a piece of dark, old fabric. He pulled at it and discovered it was a torn, filthy dress, hanging from a nail as if someone had stored it there decades ago. His heart was pounding. How could a dress be inside the wall? But what he saw next left him breathless. Behind the dress, hidden in the darkness, was a small hand mirror. It looked ancient, with tarnished metal edges and an oddly clouded surface, and the back of the mirror was covered in scratches and scribbles, like someone had frantically tried to write something. With a mixture of curiosity and terror, David carefully picked up the mirror and lifted it, turning it around to see his reflection. That was when, looking at himself, he heard the murmuring again. But this time, it wasn't coming from the walls. This time, it was coming from the mirror, as if someone were whispering from inside it. The murmur grew clearer, and now, listening closely, he could make out a single word. "Let me." A shiver ran down his spine. It was as if something, or someone, was trapped in that mirror trying to get out. His reflection in the glass seemed to move strangely, with an expression he didn't recognize, a faint, menacing smile that he didn't remember making. Terrified, he dropped the mirror and fled from his apartment without looking back. That night, he stayed at a friend's place, too afraid to return home. The next day, he tried contacting the building management, but the response he received only disturbed him more. They informed him that his apartment had been closed off for maintenance reasons, and that he wouldn't be able to access it for the time being. No one gave him further details, and strangely, none of the management's phone numbers worked after that day.